I have concepts of how the debate went. I think Harris won too much. Will America stand for a white man being beaten to death on stage by a woman of color? I do not know. I do not know. As for my perspective of the debate, I think Kamala Harris did better than I expected. I think she did pretty well, given the circumstances. She talked a little bit about policy, and this is true of every single one of these debates. I wish there was more discussion about policy. The more into specifics about what she wants to offer the American people she could get, the more of a positive agenda she could offer, the better it would be. But we also need to understand that she is just introducing herself to the country, as the face of the campaign for the first time. A lot of people don't know about a prosecutorial background. A lot of people don't know about her time as a DA. A lot of people don't know about her family or her roots or what she values, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so a lot of this debate was her trying to sell herself to the country. Because you could think, oh, well, people probably watched her first interview, or maybe people watched the DNC. People watch these debates more than they usually will watch the DNC or that first interview. And seeing somebody under pressure for some people is a better tell of character. But still, more people are tuning into this, especially after the fallout of Joe Biden dropping out after his bad debate performance, Kamala jumping in, then with the new VP momentum, it being so close. I think a lot of factors are coming together to make more people watch the debate on average. Not to mention it's the Trump era, so debates to people are just somewhat inherently more interesting. We also don't know how many debates we're going to get, which we're going to get into a moment. So I think that she had constraints on, how much she could choose to talk about, and that affected her ability to talk about policy. But honestly, I don't know if she had more time, if she would have talked more in depth about policy. I don't know if she would have made the diversion. I know that she was making diversions to define herself, because a host would ask a question, and sometimes she would answer the question, sometimes not at all. And those were the worst moments, when she would just straight up dodge the question. For example, when they say, do you support any limits to abortion? She could have said something like, I believe that there should be limits. Of course, there should be some limits somewhere, but, and then even if it was just so vague that she didn't define the limit, and her limit is, as it's coming out, it's okay. By having some sort of answer, it doesn't look like you're dodging. And those, in my opinion, were some of her worst moments. The bloodbath comment was also not accurate. I think that's the one thing I can solidly say is probably a lie, or very close to a lie from Kamala. Versus Trump, which I think the number was something like 33 or 34. There was other misleading statements, but generally speaking, I think Kamala did well. I think moving on to what she did well, I think she hit him hard on abortion. I think she characterized that difference very well. I think that she went hard on his ego, which made him go off of his game, and he took the bait like crazy. I do think she was able to sell some of her policy agenda, and was able to say future economy, opportunity economy, and was pitching that really hard. So there was some version of a positive agenda, and it wasn't just Trump bashing on top of Trump bashing on top of Trump bashing. She was able to lean into the fact that she's a prosecutor and he's a 34-time convicted felon. When she dealt with the immigration question, while it wasn't perfect, because of course that's supposed to be Trump's wheelhouse, I think relatively speaking, she was able to divert away from the conversation away from the question to the negotiations between the Republicans and the Democrats on the immigration bill that Trump sank. And then when the host reverberated that it was sunk partially due to Trump, I think that really diverted what could have been a pretty disastrous conversation. And I will say that having the hosts actually fact check and go in there and say, this is not true, when Trump says stuff like, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, et cetera, that wasn't really something Harris did well, but that was something that certainly helped Harris. Her opponent line helped Harris, while CNN did not do the fact checking. In this environment, when the focus is not as much on Joe Biden's age, and the focus is more on, because of just what's very visibly happening on screen, and the focus can be more on the substance of what's saying plus fact checking, Trump might have lied more in the first debate, but these lies got noticed more, not only because of the person pointing them out and because of how blatant they were, but also because I think that Kamala Harris was constantly bringing attention to it. And when the host would call him out on a lie, Harris wouldn't just let it go. Harris would, man, another lie, huh? What did I say was going to happen? So I think Harris, relatively speaking, did well. Are there things she could have done better? Again, I can talk about the policy. I can talk about the lack of dodging on certain areas. Like, just quick answer the question, even if it's vague, an answer is still better than nothing. Like, for example, when Donald Trump was dodging the question on a federal abortion ban, that was something I think really hurt him. That is an issue that's super motivating Democrats. Giving an answer like that, it's dodgy. And he did something similar when he came to like asking Ukraine if he wants to win. He also started to ramble about things that didn't matter. And when given the opportunity to talk about crowd sizes and if he won the election last time, he grabbed on it hardcore. When he did listen to his advisors, I think mainly around the issue of like Kamala Harris's race. When she was asked, so do you think like Kamala's black or like, are you crazy? And Trump was like, I don't care. I don't care about a race. I don't care. And then the host was like, oh, you sure? And he said, okay, yeah, okay. I don't know if she's black. Is she black? I don't know. To put it, bluntly, that's generally the interaction that happened. It was his inability to listen to his advisors in certain areas where he should have been that also sabotaged him. And I will say, I want people to look at the fact that most Americans don't know much about Harris. And so when she's talking about her background or working class, and you're like, I want to hear about the policies because that's all I want to hear about. People need to learn more about Harris. You can see from this poll that people want to learn more about Harris than they do Trump. Meaning Harris has a lot of room to grow, but also a lot of potentiality to fall because she has more wiggle room because people want to learn more about her. People are open to the possibility of a changed candidate that she is broadcasting herself, even though she's coming from the incumbent administration because she's the VP and she's so much of a younger face compared to Joe Biden, not to mention like a completely different political background from the opposite coast of the country. So a changed candidate isn't that crazy. But I do wish that she used the campaign to announce some change policy, some changes in her policies. And I said this about Joe Biden. I don't know why I shouldn't say this about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is the person who could best sell legalization of marijuana, in my opinion. Okay? While I've talked to this to some people and some said, you really think a black person should be the... Yeah, I don't care if it's a black person or a white person. I think the vast majority of Americans want legalized pot. And Harris could be the one to say, we need to concentrate on the violent criminals. We need to concentrate on the drug cartels I went after. Why are we wasting police resources arresting veterans trying to deal with the pain in Tennessee? Why are we, and that's the type of pitch I think she could do probably better than Biden, both because Biden was older and came from a different generation. And he was he helped, author the legislation on the drug war and was, an advocate for, the crime bill, etc. Whereas Harris is from a different generation post that, and I think would be more open to it. So I think that if she wanted to pitch herself as a change candidate, I wish she offered more policies of change and not stuff she had already announced. I know she wants to get the message of what she's already announced to the public, but just one big policy announcement wouldn't have been bad. I think if you should take anything from Trump is that performance does matter in politics. And I think that type of performance could have helped. But moving on, I just don't want to talk about what I thought of the debate. I already talked about that yesterday. I want to talk about what the rest of the country thought of the debate. I think Kamala Harris did well. I know others might disagree with me, but from what I've seen online, the vast majority of people seem to think that Trump underperformed. That is unless you're Donald Trump.
It was the best debate I've ever personally that I've had. We're getting polls.
This is the best debate personally I've ever had.
It showed 92 to 6, 88 to 11. We're having a lot of great polls that just came out there. Full polls and lots of other polls, but you see the polls. A very important debate. Now she wants to do another one because she got beaten tonight, but I don't know.
Why wouldn't you look at her?
Why wouldn't you look at her?
The polls are indicating that we got 90%, 60%, 72%, 71%.
Those are a lot of different numbers. That's a lot of variation in that polling data. My goodness. 71%, 70%, 96%, 94%. My goodness. A lot of polls came out very quickly.
89%.
89.
Where are you getting these numbers from?
Where are you getting these? Great question.
Beyond the polls, I felt very good. I had a good time doing it. I hate to speak about our country so negatively, but that's what happened. They ruined our country. They destroyed our country. So I hope you're all having a good time. But it was a very interesting.
So to be clear, Trump says not only did he win the debate, but this was his best performance of any debate. Okay, so he's not just coping. I'm surprised we don't see like some powder around his noses from all the copium he must be snorting. But besides that, all this data he just threw out there, 71, 70, 89, 94, that data is all over. That's like a 30 to 40 point range of data points. How do you even get to a number like that? What kind of polling data is Trump possibly talking about? What could it be? Well, here you go. Who won tonight's debate? A Twitter poll from the Daily Caller. That's where he got the 73 number. Trump versus Harris. Who won the presidential debate? Donald Trump from Insider Paper. Another Twitter poll with 4,000 votes, 7,000 votes. By the way, these polls just started. They haven't even finished yet. It's 30 minutes in and he's like, stop the clock. It's just like mail-in voting. He still doesn't know how it works, putting aside the fact that it's a Twitter poll. Who won the debate? Leading report, 91. There's where the 91% number came. Who won tonight's debate? Political polls. That was 57. He didn't cite that number. 57 wasn't good enough for him. 57 wasn't believable enough for him. It had to be 91. It has to always be a complete and utter shutout with no competition whatsoever. It has to be Bashar al-Assad levels of margins. If Donald Trump was dictator, he would have the margins of Bashar al-Assad. If he ever got like complete control of the country, he would be like 92% win. Just write 92. Everyone loves me. He would 100% do it because he can't even believe the stuff that's slightly believable, like 57-32. At least Maduro recently had enough sense to not say, oh, I won 90-2 or something. And he just did some effort to make it look believable. My goodness. But I do want to throw out there that Trump being in the spin room is also not in the spin room. For those of you who don't know, after these debates, the different surrogates for the campaign go to the press who just finished filming, the debate and live reporting and putting out messages about what they're saying. And then they start making the case for their candidate, knowing that many of them are going to take snippets and put them on social media, put them on their networks, etc. And it's not only a chance to build themselves, but it's a chance to build the campaign and the candidate and continue to make the case after the debate. Now, usually, you're going to see people like Gavin Newsom, Vivek Ramaswamy, maybe J.D. Vance, and others in that crowd. I wonder how J.D. Vance reacted in the crowd when Donald Trump tried to distance himself from him. Again, not a great sign of a united front in the campaign. But when he went to the spin room, that's different. The presidential Kamala didn't do that. Obama didn't do that. Hillary didn't do that. Nobody. You only do that if you think you need to spin something. And him going out there immediately with Twitter polling data, if it was any other president, he would be laughed out of the room. But because it's him, it's not even like a slight news story. Do you think if Joe Biden cited like Kamala HQ polling on Twitter as, oh, look, it looks like Kamala has 80%. How do you think CNN and AP would cover it? And I don't even know if it's not them purposely treating Kamala Harris differently either. It's just the standard has been dropped so low. If you want to see an actual flash poll after the debate, here's one from CNN, 63% Kamala Harris, 37% Trump, which I do also think with that 37% Trump number is probably his most solid base of support. These are the people who are going to be voting with him probably no matter what, under any circumstances, which I think that's about the number I would have thought. And Kamala Harris is at 63, meaning that the vast majority of Americans believe that Kamala Harris won. In fact, if she would have gotten 3 more points in this poll, then it would be 2 out of every 3 Americans, which, when you're considering this is, again, a race that's historically close. This is a very close race. For the time of length we've had these candidates within 5 points of each other, it's actually a historic long period of time. It usually is not as close as it is right now. I will say that it isn't just this one poll. Here's another poll. This is from Trafalgar. Mind you, Trafalgar is a right-wing pollster. It is recognized as a right-wing pollster. Harris, 55%, 43% Trump. Not as bad as what CNN said, but still a more than 10-point advantage. Can you start saying Harris's name correctly? I mean, I keep trying, and I think the problem is I'll say it correctly, and then I'll stop concentrating on it, and I'll just try to start saying things like da-da-da-da-da, and then it'll come out wrong. And so maybe I should just say Harris, so you guys will stop poking me with a stick every time I say the president's name. Anyway, moving on. I will say that if you want a good sign of things to come for the rest of the Trump campaign and how Harris is going to hit them on abortion, this is how Trump is weak on abortion. With answers like this. So he was asked during the debate if he would support a national abortion ban. He dodged the question. He then dodged it again, moved on, and said, well, I believe in exceptions. I believe in exceptions in rape, incest, etc., etc., etc. And so he didn't answer the question. So journalists afterwards followed up. I believe this is, I don't know if this is an Israeli news outlet that asked this question. I know it's CNN streaming, but I see an Israeli mic in his face. Whoever asked it, he has asked again in the spin room that he went to in order to spin the debate. And he's asked, does he support a federal abortion ban? And he again refuses to answer.
You were asked if you would veto a national abortion ban, and you did not say yes or no. What is your answer to that?
So all you have to do is check it. It was a perfect answer on abortion, and I've done a great job in that, and I brought our country together. Thank you.
Yes or no?
If they keep hitting him on this, this just looks weak. It's bad performance. It doesn't make him look strong, and it's an issue that is motivating Democrats, and the vast majority of Americans believe that Roe versus Wade should have been kept. And not only do the vast majority of Americans believe Roe versus Wade should be kept, but if Trump is leaving a question mark next to the idea of him doing a federal abortion ban, that's not just overturning Roe versus Wade. That is going from you have a constitutional right to your own body to you don't anywhere. That is not only a shift from some girls in certain states, like 1/3 of states, not having control of their own bodies and having to flee to get service, to nobody can get them. Nobody can get them anywhere. States' rights not to choose. He should not be dodging this question if he's against a federal abortion ban. He should just be saying, if he would never do it, yes, I'd veto it. Yes, I do it, especially since it's something that probably would help him with moderates. The problem is, in the Republican Party right now, there's a contention over the issue of abortion. They know that after Roe versus Wade was overturned, it motivated Democrats to turn out during midterms. They know it's a big motivator for Democrats now. They know it's a losing issue for moderates. They know it's a fundraiser for Democrats. And so they electorally see it as dead weight. At least that's how Trump does. And Trump, I don't think particularly cares about the issue. And so Trump, for him, if he needs to keep the loyalty of the pro-lifers with him, but he needs to win the moderates to win, he's going to try to find some compromise in the middle, and so, or try to dodge the question all around, because on one hand, he doesn't want to piss off the pro-life base and the evangelical base that vote for him at higher percentages than George Bush, but on the other hand, he doesn't want to lock off the votes that he needs to win. So he simply does not answer, and we all have to be left waiting and wondering if a national abortion ban came to his desk, whether he would pass it. Now, it's a separate question whether Republicans would be able to get the votes in order to institute that, whether the Republican Party would actually follow through with it because they think it's strategically prudent to go from overturning Roe versus Wade to banning abortion literally everywhere, including places like California. If you want to see fundraising for the Democratic Party, that is certainly one way to do it. But the risk is there. And his continued denial to ask the question, even if he would never do it, just to keep the party together, does scare off moderates. And I want to throw one more example of this happening, because some people might say, Dylan, that's just how Trump is. He's like half paying attention. He doesn't respect the media. If you had one of his different staffers, then they would clearly answer that, of course, he would not ban abortion everywhere. And he would veto an abortion ban because because, you know, it was bad. Here's an example of a Trump staffer, Brian Lanza, answering to CNN on this issue about why he would not answer the question.
You know, Trump called his answer on abortion, quote, perfect, but when the moderators pressed him on whether he would veto a national abortion ban, he refused to answer.
I think he said it in the past that he wouldn't sign a national abortion ban, and I think J.D. Vance has also stated that. I think what he said last night is like, why are we?
But he didn't say he would.
Mind you, I think he forgot. J.D. Vance said yes, he would not sign a national abortion ban. He would not be doing that. But in the same debate where he's, you know, citing that, Donald Trump said J.D. Vance does not speak for me, because J.D. Vance was talking about Trump not wanting to do that because J.D. Vance knows his political dead weight. But Trump is like, oh, he doesn't speak to. He was in the debate distancing himself from his vice presidential candidate. So citing the vice presidential candidate that Donald Trump has his thumb on completely doesn't really convince me that he is going to not do that.
This is like,
he also said he was going to institute maternity leave and paid sick leave.
Why are we?
But he didn't,
or at least maternity leave. I don't remember paid sick.
Say he didn't say he would veto it if it got passed and got to his desk. He didn't say whether he would.
Hey, Brent Hatfield, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. I appreciate that. You didn't need to do that, buddy. Thank you very much. It's really kind of you.
veto.
I was answering the question, Jim. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think what he was saying.
Well, if you're not going to answer the question, I am going to jump in, Brian.
I'm about to answer the question, but you keep on jumping. When I say I'm about to answer the question, that's the time you let me answer the question.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
go
as I was saying and trying to answer your question, your deeply thoughted question, I think what he was trying to say last night, and I think what he has said is like, listen, he goes, the country does not support late-term abortion. I think 91% of the country feels late-term abortion is a horrific thing.
No, he said that.
But what is late-term abortion? What do they think? When someone says late-term abortion, people think like they're 9 months pregnant and they just like bop with a hammer, right? Or they do, or like the doctor just does not care, and like to the last second, like the day before birth, they're just bopping with a hammer. Or in some instances, from how Trump has presented it, that these doctors got like little baby guillotines, and if they're born, they say or eh. Like, no, they come out. It's like the movie what's that, Gladiator. The mother, after giving birth, turns to the California doctor and goes, no, that's not how it works. Very sorry, but no. And even if you don't like that, even if you don't like, for example, the idea of them getting an abortion 8 months in because of medical complications, which is the vast majority of instances, or even if you could find some instances where this does happen, let's say that the state does do this to the last second. When was it the prerogative of the Republican Party to say that states' rights here do not matter, but states' rights do matter right now, and that's the argument for Roe v. Wade? Because Trump's argument on the stage was Roe v. Wade sends us back down to the states. Everybody wanted it. Everybody didn't want it, but he did send it back down to the states. So now, if that's his prerogative, then him being asked, so you're going to do a federal abortion ban? He should say, no, I sent it back to the states. That would be the principled continuation and logical conclusion of Trump's position if he genuinely held it. So why doesn't he answer the question? Want to know why? Because he wants that pro-life fundraising. That's why.
He said that in some states they're executing the babies after they're born, which is false. So
let me finish my answer, Jim. I understand you don't want to hear it because it's inconvenient, but I'm still going to answer.
Dog, he just keeps saying, let me answer, and then not answering. Let me answer. Thank you. My goodness. Could you believe that the host of today's show could not let me answer the answer that I'm about to give in a few moments that he was trying to stop me from saying?
Brian, if you're not going to tell the truth, I've got to jump in. I'm sorry.
Jim, do you want the truth? Do you want me to answer your question?
We want the truth,
Yes, and I'm trying to give you the truth with an explanation, but you constantly keep interrupting, which leads me to believe you don't want to hear the answer because it's inconvenient to you. So for the fourth time, I'm going to try to answer this question. You know, what he said about abortion, what his position has always been, he's always been proud of repealing abortion. He said it early on that he gave the list of people from the Federalist Society.
Wait, he's always been proud of repealing abortion or Roe versus Wade? What do you mean repealing abortion? That sounds like an abortion ban.
Who are going to return it to the state?
I mean, like overturning Roe versus Wade paved the way for abortion bans, but repealing abortion just sounds like abortion ban.
And that's what has happened. And he's very comfortable with the states making the decision. He's very comfortable with some states being as liberal as California and taking the position they want to. And he's very.
So if that's the case, then it would be against his principle to allow a federal abortion ban to go into place. So he would veto it.
Comfortable with states as Arizona, sort of being more conservative as Texas. Where he lies on the issue and what he believes on the issue, it should be pushed back to the states for them to decide. What he says at the national levels is that he doesn't believe a national abortion ban is going to hit his desk. I believe that too. I think you.
That's not an answer to the question. Again, he's dodging the question. He doesn't believe. Why would this answer be inconvenient? He just like did this whole song and dance, you know, with the top hat and the cane, like, I'm being censored, I am ragtime gal, whatever. And then his, like, super provocative question that CNN had to shut down is just him saying, like, not the answer to the question.
Believe that, having covered the Hill yourself, Jim, you know that there's never going to be any legislation that goes to his desk on abortion because there's.
Yeah, just like Jimmy Dore said, there was not going to be 3 Supreme Court appointments. Look, I'm not saying it's even particularly likely. But we also didn't think Roe versus Wade getting overturned was likely. That's part of the reason why when we had a moment where maybe we could have, you know, instituted some Roe versus Wade protections legislatively at the start of the Obama administration. It's more complicated than that. It's not as simple as some people project it. But people think of that opportunity and manifest that opportunity now because in hindsight, we should have taken it, even though if somebody said in 2008 after Obama won the race for president, Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned within the next 12 years, I don't think anyone would have believed them.
There's never been any legislation to go to the desk of any president since the overturn of Roe v. Wade. So as in completing your answer, President Trump has actually stated his position now for the fifth time where he stands. He has stated in the past he does not support a national abortion ban.
Look, if somebody said, hey, Dylan, do you think if you were president and there was a ban on puppies that was going to hit your desk, okay? Because I see you're hanging out a lot with the cat lobby, okay? What would you do? Would you veto it since you believe it's a state's rights issue? And if my only answer is like, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, the reason why is because I'm bought by the cat lobby, and even if I don't want to do it and I think it's political dead weight, I don't want to anger them.
But he didn't say whether he would veto that. I mean, I let you talk there for like a minute or two.
I guess it's a little technical word. I guess in my view, when you
what do you mean a little technical? You're scared of what I'm going to say. Well, I guess it's more just a technical difference.
This ain't C-SPAN, Brian, and when I ask you a question, whether he's, why he didn't say whether he would veto it, you can't just go on and on forever. I mean,
Jim,
I did ask you a straightforward question.
Jim, I just got confused. When I say he's not going to sign a national abortion ban, what does that mean to you?
You're still not answering the question.
Well, I want to...
The question would not be about him signing it. It's about him vetoing it. It's about if Congress passes a national abortion ban. Let's say that we had some gerrymandering in some Republican states after a red wave. More Republican congressmen get elected, more Republican senators get elected. People believe, the odds are Republicans could take the Senate. And then Donald Trump's in office. What if the Republicans say, screw the filibuster? Democrats were going to get rid of it for Roe v. Wade to reinstitute protections anyway. Why couldn't we get rid of it to, ban abortion then? If they were going to use Roe v. Wade to give everyone abortion, why can't we use if they were going to use this process to give everyone abortion, why can't we get rid of the filibuster to take away the murdering of babies? I'm not saying that this is likely. I'm saying that if throwing that scenario at anybody else on this campaign, the other candidate, you know what they're going to say? Yes, I will veto it. That's what Harris will say. You ask Trump that, he can't answer. Moving on from this, but this is something that's going to affect them the whole race. And that's why they don't want to talk about abortion. They want to be as far away from the issue of abortion. And that's why Trump took it out of the Republican Party platform basically everywhere. I will also say that while Donald Trump is reportedly continuing to push this idea of I won with these Twitter polls, he doesn't seem too excited when talking to Sean Hannity on Fox about another debate.
Dude Tang Su has donated $10. Drip appreciation donation because I miss my Ride the Lightning shirt my fiance stole heart.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I love this shirt. It's great. Ride the Lightning.
She wants a second debate. What's your answer?
She lost. She wants it.
Go. I need to take cover. There's a drone. You missed me. Where were we? Oh, yes. Oh, so I can't hear the drones anymore. The air alert's still on, but I can't hear it. So, object permanence. If you can't hear it, it's not there. Let's finish this Trump spin room stuff. So this is Donald Trump being asked if he wants to do another debate. And because Kamala, right after the debate, considering how it went, immediately wanted to do another one. Donald Trump, not so interested.
She wants a second debate. What's your answer?
She lost. She wants it because she lost.
Do you have an answer?
Well, I don't know. I have to think about it. But if you won the debate, I sort of think maybe I shouldn't do it. Why should I do another debate? She immediately said, we want another debate. That's, what happens when you're a prize fighter and you lose? You immediately want a new fight.
You want a rematch.
You want a rematch. The guy that won is sort of happy and thinking about it.
Would you be inclined to say yes, or you
Maybe
don't know?
if it was on a fair network, I would do that. But
I think let Hannity moderate it.
Yeah, no, I think
like I did Newsom and Ron DeSantis.
I think it would be fair. You would be fair, actually.
Reminder that Fox was charged $850 million for lying. You can say a lot of things about ABC. They haven't had that happen to them. But this is not boxing. This is not the UFC, okay? This is not some cage fight. This is politics. These are debates. These are getting your messages out to the people. If you think that you being next to Kamala, talking to the people, would be advantageous in a race this close, you would take it. You would take it. But now, 78 years old, oldest nominee in American history, not able to put yourself next to an 82-year-old man to make yourself look more energetic. You're getting caught easily by the bait. You're not listening to your advisors. People are saying you're not winning. You have to use Twitter polls to make it look like you won. There's a strategy here where the Republicans could say, let's be risk averse. Let's not keep giving Kamala the opportunity to sell herself to the public when people still want to know her on a stage and environment like that. Then again, if Donald Trump really was the smear merchant that he once was, him being on a stage with Kamala Harris should be an opportunity for him to try to get people to know her in a bad way, to have a negative effect on the campaign. But if he can't do that, well, she's going to do more damage to him because he's just a more vulnerable candidate with, you know, so many flaws, then it makes sense that he wouldn't want to run again. Or maybe he just thinks she can out-debate him. Either way, the problem was from the beginning that Kamala Harris, and I think Vivek Ramaswamy actually, Vivek, he, I think, said this most clearly, which is a strange thing to say out loud, that Vivek had the clearest sense about this of all the peoples of the world. Let's see if I can find where he is. Where is Vivek? Where is Vivek? Here he is. Vivek said they expected less of Kamala, and so she exceeded those expectations. And I don't think he's wrong.
You know, I'm always going to give it to you straight. So a few things I would say is, did she exceed the very low expectations that were set for her? Yes, she did. You know, I'm always going to give it to you.
So the problem was they portrayed her like a ditz, like a klutz, like she doesn't know what she's doing. But on the other hand, she's the real one running the show. Or on the other hand, so you can actually blame her for everything. But, you know, a lot of this messaging is contradictory. But the idea was, one of the overarching ideas was that she is inexperienced, she doesn't know what she's doing, and she's a ditz. She's a giggly, goofy, to put it bluntly, bimbo. And they're trying to, and Donald Trump was trying to project that she like used intercourse to get up the political ranks. He's suggested that. So this is not the image of somebody who's going to be able to cite facts and figures or hold your feet to the fire on foreign policy issues, or hold your feet to the fire on your felonies, or hold your feet to the fire on really any of these issues, or perform as well she did that night. When you set the expectation so low, and then Kamala overperforms just generally speaking, then you've made it even worse. Because the people expected less of her, and she didn't only do well, I mean, and did she does well above what would be average expectations for a candidate, I think then you've set the situation to be worse than it would have been if your argument wasn't, hey, she is a bimbo, and she has no clue what she's doing, yada, yada, yada. And instead was, oh, she's a cold, calculated. Maybe they could have sold it differently, tried to paint her more like Hillary Clinton, but you did not beat Hillary Clinton by just painting her as a bimbo. They had to paint her like evil, demonic monster in order to get her in order to beat her. And so if Kamala is going to keep out pumping performances like this, you can't win just by saying she's stupid. And by the way, something that's interesting about this scene, look at what Lindsey Graham is doing in the background. By the way, Lindsey Graham responded by saying that everybody who trained Donald Trump for this debate, which includes Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, good job, Tulsi, should be fired.
Straight. So a few things I would say is,
look at Graham.
Did she exceed the very low expectations that were set for her? Yes, she did.
Yeah. So there seems to be some agreement on the MAGA Vivek side of the party all the way to the Lindsey Graham side of the party, which is a very different faction when you look at the foreign policy beliefs and otherwise. Anyway, moving on. I do want to read some takes from some conservatives we've had on the show, because I don't want to just, to be honest with you, most of the stuff I'm finding is not positive. I see Rob Noor saying that Kamala won the debate. I'm seeing most of the commentators I know that are conservative saying that it wasn't really all that good. The ones that I can trust to not completely just be in the cult. Like, of course, if this was Benny Johnson, it'd be one thing. But somebody who can be a little bit impartial on the matter. Sean Fitzgerald, though, I did want to read a little bit of the alternative perspective, because he thinks that she should be hitting him more on the crowd sizes thing, even though I think that she did fine with that. I think that she should have been selling policies more, honestly, leaning into policies, or even leaning into her background even a little bit more, which I saw some people getting annoyed at. I think that's important. I think people are projecting their own interest in what they want to see online as super online political people onto what average people vote over. Okay, I know people who voted for people because they had a nice dog or they had the same name, and thinking you know a candidate and you being able to trust a candidate, that does matter. Kamala honestly should have hit more on things like crowd sizes and rallies. If you notice, that's the only point she threw Orange Man off. She could have kept doing that, make a bunch of policy claims, then throw a jab in. Trump has proven he will focus on the jab. This, I generally agree with. I just do think that she probably did enough on that. I think that following jab, policy jab, I do think that's a decent combination. The other thing, though, this is the thing where I disagree with Sean Fitzgerald. People were saying the ABC moderators were helping Kamala are not wrong, but this was a missed opportunity for Trump. If the second or third time they attacked him, start calling them Kamala's helpers and pointing out she couldn't stand on her own, and he would have filled up the script. Now, maybe that would have narratively helped convincing the audience a little bit more. Maybe it would have, but I do want to throw out there, because this media, this narrative about ABC, right? This was also repeated by Ben Shapiro. ABC's moderators are a disgrace to their profession. My goodness, what a statement. Now, I think I'm just gonna play Richard because, you know, I disagree with Richard on a lot of things. Sometimes I agree with Richard. What I like about reading Richard tweets is that sometimes he'll hit him right out of the park, and other times he'll swing and miss more than anything else in the world. He just couldn't have missed harder. But I think he made the point most clearly, and I don't want to just pretend it's my point. I want to read his point and not pretend I just stole it. They literally want journalists to sit there and say, yes, Mr. Trump, of course the Haitian people are eating dogs. That's the idea of fairness. Now, look, I'm not even saying Kamala didn't lie. Now, I will say that the scale of the line is a little different.
CNN senior reporter Daniel Dale was listening closely to both candidates. Daniel, what stood out to you?
Jake, what stood out was that this was a staggeringly dishonest debate performance from former President Trump. Just lie after lie on subject after subject. By my preliminary count, Jake, Trump made at least 33 false claims, 33. By contrast, by, again, a preliminary count, Vice President Harris made at least one false claim, though she added at least a few misleading claims and a few more.
So misleading claims or slightly dishonest claims, but we're talking about solid lies. For example, Donald Trump saying millions died in the war in Ukraine with no citation whatsoever. And he said it again and again and again. And he said it in the previous conversation as well. He didn't give an exact number, but he said much higher than they're saying. So he's just blowing, like, he's just dragging bodies that don't exist through the mud in order to make a political point. Those things stack up on top of each other, one after the other, one after the other. And so if Donald Trump's lies are something like, Haitian people are eating dogs, and it's already well known in the journalistic community that's not true. And you know, as a journalist, how that's going to reflect on Springfield, how it's going to reflect on Haitian immigrants who are, you know, a lot of them are productive members of society, just like the rest of them. And so you feel it is your responsibility to at least go in and fact check that. Now, when Kamala Harris says bloodbath, now that might not be honest or 100% honest, then, and you might add this to this lie list, but that's a lot less clear lie than Haitian people are eating dogs. And so on one hand, you could say, why didn't they fact check there? And it probably would have been good if they did. But on the other hand, Donald Trump was getting fact checked when he said the most blatantly easy to identify lies in the world. Like if somebody cited me information about something that Zelensky said in like 2017 that was completely lie, like a complete lie, I might not notice that. I might not recognize it, even though I know more about this war probably than most Americans. But if somebody said, for example, that Euromaidan was a coup done by the Vietnamese, I'd be like, Vietnamese? What do you mean the Vietnamese? And then, you know, I'm gonna be like, there's no evidence that suggests that, and I'm gonna confront it because it's just like a blatant crazy lie. And that's the problem with Donald Trump, is he needs to make his lies a little less blatant. It's the Trumpification of language. Everything's always the best or everything's always the worst. If he could learn to moderate his language a little bit, or just moderate the crazy polling data that he just threw out like crazy. And he just said there was one poll where it had a 57-34 Harris, because there was one Twitter poll that did. And if he just cited that and never said anything, maybe people wouldn't even known it was a Twitter poll because he rambles all the time. But he has to go for 91-4. He has to go for the Bashar al-Assad numbers, the stuff that's too easy to recognize, instead of the calm, subtle lies of professional politicians, instead of performers and like social media mongrels. I do also want to throw out this commentary from CNN, because the conversation around age has completely shifted in this campaign, and this debate is an example of it.
Corrupt, bankrupt man.
Hey, thank you so much, Sanvio. Thank you so much for the sub. I appreciate that, buddy. The conversation about age has completely shifted. We had the vast majority of Americans saying Joe Biden is not fit for office mentally, competently, because of how people perceived his age. Joe is out. He's finishing his job as president. Donald Trump is now the oldest nominee in American history because Joe Biden was never officially nominated at 78 years old. He's starting to slow down. He's starting to mess up. This type of stuff happens with age. And I'm not even saying that his decision-making faculties have deteriorated past where they were 9 years ago. I think they're as garbage, at least, as they were 9 years ago. But this perception of him, now that it's him versus a much younger candidate, and people are noticing this, on top of the crazy statements about dog eating and transgender, illegal alien criminals getting sex reassignment surgeries in prison, they're noticing more. And now the majority of Americans don't think Donald Trump is competent, is physically mentally fit enough for the job. CNN touches on this and how it affected the debate.
And I was struck recently in the last couple of weeks just watching Trump in his normal campaign world, on the stump, in interviews, and he is progressively slowing down. He's progressively not able to really even make his own normal kind of cases that he would make about all sorts of issues, and that was on display tonight. I mean, she was really helped by Trump just not really being able to kind of take it to her on virtually anything. And in a way, her biggest weakness might have been that when you give her something that she's not prepared for, she may or may not be able to address it. But Trump never did that. He only gave her things that it would be very obvious that he would say on the debate stage. And I think that's one of the main reasons that she was able to just kind of...
Like, why even temper down your party's rhetoric on abortion? I'm sorry, this is... Why go through all the effort of having this inter-party civil war on the issue of abortion if you're not going to take advantage of the almost complete power you've developed over the party to take a more moderate electable stance on abortion when we know Trump does not care? We know Trump does not care about abortion. You think that a New York socialite really cares all that much about controlling what? I don't know about that. But I think it really is just the fundraising, and he just sees those evangelical numbers and he wants to rile them up. Maybe it's just the responses from the crowds or the private donors, or who knows, but maybe he just thinks if he stays non-committed until then and he just stays quiet about it and doesn't bring attention to it, then he can have the best of both worlds, and he's being greedy. Who knows? But he should pick a path, and I think that path should be the moderate position if he wants to get ahead of Kamala in the polls.
Quite impressively, actually, take a lot of preparation and just spit it right out on that debate stage, almost exactly probably the way her advisors wanted her to. And Trump just wasn't nimble enough to even respond to that.
Right. He you know, dove into his little pit of grievance, and
he's aging, and it shows. It's showing on the debate stage. It's showing on the campaign.
What? Man, I will say this CNN panel was tearing him up last night. I was watching it. My goodness, it was tearing him up. But let's get off of CNN. Let's get off the Clinton News Network. Let's listen to some real America. Okay, let's listen to the lifeblood of American media, Fox. Okay, Dylan, have you seen the Trump team now is blaming Tulsi Gabbard already? If you have links, throw the links. Okay, put the link in chat if you have it. I'd love to read it. Now, first, let's start with the most positive interpretation, and this is the most positive interpretation of the events, which I think is just pure copium, from Jesse Waters, where he says that the American people watching tonight didn't think anyone won, but all the memorable lines come from Trump. So nobody won, but Trump kind of won. None of the polling reflects that, and the rest of the hosts don't even buy it. But let's listen to what Jesse Waters had to say.
Jesse, your thoughts?
I don't think the American people are watching and thinking any of these people won. This was rough. This was pretty intense at times. She started off shaky. She regained her footing. But I thought she was going to come out with some of these memorable lines. All the memorable lines were from Donald Trump.
I don't know what he means. Like, opportunity economy was the memorable line she kept pushing. Opportunity economy, right? So that's the type of stuff it was trying to sell. It was trying to sell an alternative vision to Trump. She had, like, there was a few, but I don't know what, like, memorable line he's talking about. Was it the comment about, like, her previous debate about with VP Mike Pence that only hardcore political nerds are going to get? I don't know what lines Trump made that were particularly more memorable than the lines. I mean, there was the memorable line. The only line I honestly can recall off the top of my head that is the most memorable that I would think of like a month or 2 months from now is I have concepts of a plan. When Donald Trump was asked, do you have a plan about healthcare? You've had 9 years. You tried to replace Obamacare. You never presented a plan. What is your healthcare plan? And he said, I'm going to have a plan soon. And he said, so you still don't have a plan? And his response was, and I quote,
so just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
That's the only memorable line I honestly remember.
Run, spot, rum. Shh, 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 I'm speaking. Does that sound familiar? Wake.
Oh my God, it's actually him. Okay, so he does think that people care about the VP debate from 4 years ago that Kamala Harris had with Mike Pence. And when Mike Pence interrupted Kamala, she said, I'm speaking. And I kept seeing a million different conservative memes leading up to this debate, like, oh, Kamala's so excited to interrupt Trump. Ooh,
a curd is a curd.
But
Rosetum287 has donated $5. Who let the dogs out?
thank you for the $5. Oh, she's so excited to shut down Trump and say I'm speaking, but that was Trump who did it as a reference to it. But who's watching that debate and is seeing all of that about Trump talking about eating dogs and cats and is like, oh, that was a subtle jab at the debate from 4 years ago. Yes, which debate? The vice presidential debate. Nobody remembers. And the people who do remember are political nerds who've already made up their mind.
Pick Joe Biden up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go get him to sign this thing to close the border. I took a bullet because you said I was a threat to democracy.
That is a stupid line. I think people, if he's going to speak for the American people, okay, and I hate doing this, but I would think most people would roll their eyes at the idea that Joe Biden's and Kamala Harris's fiery rhetoric caused the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Especially when we don't even particularly understand the ideology of the person in question, and they were a registered Republican. Doesn't mean that they were still voting Republican or they liked Trump, but just all I'm saying is we don't know that this was some Kamala Harris stan. Was he working on the 2020 campaign for Kamala? I don't remember that.
And they're eating the pets. You know,
does he think the eating the pet stuff helps? That all the new major news networks are going to be talking about how Donald Trump rambled on stage about Haitian people eating pets, and a completely made up story from Springfield that the community and their city officials are saying is not true.
You watch this thing, if you're a Democrat, you're like, oh, she did a great job. She was much more forceful than Joe Biden. If you're a Republican, you look at this and you're like, that's Donald Trump. He had some moments.
I mean, like what? Like Danabo just brought up, like, oh, you have a Marxist father. Who cares about Kamala Harris's Marxist father? You want to talk about family and the scummy stuff family does? Oh my God. Let's look at the type of stuff that his kids say and have done and the type of nepotism they've engaged in. We talk about Hunter Biden all the time. Well, now Hunter Biden's not even like the son of Kamala Harris. So what are you going to do? I mean, so far it looks like they went after Tim Walz's kids. Harris's, I have yet to see too much of. I've seen a little bit.
So you were like, oh my God, where are we going with this? And then he just had some great knockouts. And so.
Great knockouts. Anyway, that's Jesse Waters in cuckoo land trying to make sure Trump doesn't hate him too much. Here's what the other people said. This was still an attempt on a positive spin, but I don't know how you say this out loud and think this is positive.
That if there's a grievance on that part, you'll see it. I do think that he won on points on his first answer about the economy, and then his last answer was good. So if you only watch those two parts, and if you're like first impression and last impression, you might leave with an impression that he did all right. I'm surprised that.
Oh my God. How is that your salvage? You know, if you only watch this one answer, we did okay in an over 2-hour conversation. Well, yeah, I guess if someone just watched the intro, then they walk away thinking it was a wash. Yeah, but if they watch a little bit more, like the first 30 or 40 minutes, or any more than that, which I think most Americans probably watch for an hour, maybe tune out halfway in, something like that, who knows, then it's a different situation. But you're right, if someone just decided to tune in right at the end and right at the start, then maybe they perceive it differently. Just like if I just watched this beginning and end of the Star Wars movies, I'd probably have a different perception of the movies. Maybe I think, man, this movie sucked. There's only like 5 minutes here.
Your takeaway from tonight.
So
I agree with Brett. This what has to be thought of by supporters of Donald Trump and people in that campaign as a disappointment. June 27th, we talked about before, was a different kind of collapse for Joe Biden. In some ways, this has to be thought of as a collapse in some ways. I got reaction from Republican friends. The two common things were train wreck, and he needs this to end.
You're
Train wreck
is occurred.
Train wreck.
Planet of Hats has donated $10. Dylan, they're eating the dogs.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the cats, everyone. They're eating the cats. They're eating the cats. Here's Chris Christie, former Republican, now anti-Trumper. I mean, he's still a Republican. He's just an anti-Trumper.
Occurred is
anti-Trump Republican.
Rosetum287 has donated $5. I have concepts of a witty remark.
Concepts of a witty remark. Concepts.
Constitution Center in Philadelphia, and with Chris Christie. So, Governor Christie.
Mind you, he did lead Trump's 2016 transition, but now they hate each other.
You heard the debate. Remarkable debate. Bottom line, what'd you think?
She was exquisitely well prepared. She laid traps, and he chased every rabbit down every hole instead of talking about the things that he should have been talking about. This is the difference between someone who's well prepared and someone who's unprepared. Whoever did debate...
Mind you, Chris Christie might not be like very close in the Trump world, or didn't even do particularly well during the last campaign. I mean, I think he was like in 5th, but it was like 3-4%, maybe something like that, maybe 5%. At the end of the day, Chris Christie was great on the debate stage. He's a good debater, and he does well under adversity, and even with those crowds that were booing him a lot. And he did well in 2016. This is like one of the few areas where I would say you could trust Chris Christie to a certain extent. He still has his biases, but he knows how to debate.
Someone who's well prepared and someone who's unprepared. Whoever did debate prep for Donald Trump should be fired. He was not good tonight at all. And what Harris did was what she had to do, which was to prove that she belonged on that stage. She has a voice that wants to try to unite the country. And Donald Trump spent more time talking about people eating pets, people at his rallies, and whether he had more or less than he did about the economy. And that is a huge fail tonight. I think what we're going to see is that Kamala Harris is now being seen by a lot of voters as a potential president. That's what she needed to accomplish tonight. Trump better get to work or he's going to lose this election.
Mind you, that the pitch was until very recently that Kamala Harris will just cave under pressure in interviews. And I don't know if she's going to follow this with a sprint of interviews. I hope she does do interviews. I hope she does do podcasts. I think she needs to get her face out there. Voters need to get to know Kamala Harris. That is her job. Do not just do rallies. Go into environments that are untraditional to try to get to know people. Make a full court sprint. If you still want to do the rallies, you got a fantastic VP candidate that knows how to hype people up at these events. Not to mention, you can do quick stops, 1 hour podcast after, quick 10-minute speech, 1 hour podcast after. They can get out there, put her face out there. I don't see the problem with that. Here is another Fox News host dooming a little bit over the debate.
Vice President Harris was clearly well prepared, practiced on the offensive much of the night. Former President Trump did take a lot of the bait that she threw out in some of those answers.
Look, Kamala did well. Kamala did well. I think she won. The majority of Americans seem to think they won. It seems like a lot of even right-wing commentators and Fox News hosts have to acknowledge that tonight did not go too well. And I think part of the reason they have to is if they don't and they just pretend everything's fine, then do they want to have another debate like this? That's the problem. On one hand, they could cope about it, and they should maybe cope about it for public perception reasons. But if they don't change anything and they have the same exact style of debate next time, while Kamala puts the same amount of effort into preparing and Trump puts the same lack of effort into preparing, the difference you could end up seeing is that Kamala doesn't just do as well, that she might even do better. Looking at the areas that she did wrong, trying to course correct. From what I know, Harris is a real stickler. Harris is somebody who is, from what I've read, staffers have complained about how much of a stickler that she is, that she asks questions about every bullet point on every briefing, and you better have follow-up notes because she's going to want to have to know about it because she reads every briefing. And I'm reading these complaints from these pussy staffers.
I'm Not Hank Hill has donated $10.
About Kamala
really
being
been
mean.
Enjoying the streams lately.
I'm sorry to be mean about it. Thank you for the $10. I'm not Hank Hill. I'm sorry to call them pussy staffers. But if you're working for the Vice President of the United States and you're complaining because you need follow-up notes for briefing them because they have questions about the briefings you pursue, so it's not just going to be here's one fact and then like, hey, can I know more about that fact? And you just don't know because you were just regurgitating information. Tough shit. You need to get her the information. If she's going to be making these decisions, she needs to have access to the information. And if that's the way she pursues conversations with her staff, then how do you think she pursues an environment like this where she might be politically vulnerable? Point is, I don't think she's going to let up in the work ethic. That's what I mean. Maybe I shouldn't have called them pussy staffers. I don't know all the things she's done to them in private. But reading somebody complain about having to give a detailed briefing to the Vice President of the United States, who could quickly, if something happened to the oldest president in American history, would become the American president immediately. So, I don't know. Get over it a little bit. Oh, I do want to show. So, during the debate, Donald Trump distanced himself from J.D. Vance, which must have not felt good as he was destroying the cover that J.D. Vance tried to provide for him on the issue of reproductive rights. And during this debate, Trump lied a lot, which probably does not make J.D. Vance's job any easier because, one, they distanced himself from him, and number two, he's now going to be asked again and again and again about positions he did not say and so not necessarily could defend on a moment's notice. He's got to defend his lies to the public, even though he would probably not say them because, I mean, J.D. Vance is in the MAGA crowd, but he's not Trump. He's not Trump. He's not going after Kamala's race in the same way. He's saying some crazy, weird stuff, but not the same type of crazy, weird stuff. He's going to say something weird about your mammary glands, okay? But not the same. He's not going to say the same lies that Trump does, unless Trump tells him to. Let's listen to Caitlin Collins confront him on Trump's repeated lies during the debate, which are now finally getting more attention on CNN, since after the last debate, they got a lot less attention. This debate, they're getting a lot more attention because the story is less of Joe Biden's age.
He brought up, which I was kind of surprised by, I guess I would say, is he brought up this misleading false claim that you yourself have talked about in recent days about Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, abducting people's pets and eating them, which officials there have said is not true. You yourself acknowledged it may be false on Twitter. You still told people to keep spreading it. But Trump just amplified it.
Yeah, that is true.
Tens of
I can't believe this, but J.D. Vance acknowledged that it might be fake, but then said in the reply tweet, keep posting the memes anyway. Keep up with the dog and cat memes. Like, you're not supposed to just either don't address it. Why say, oh, it might be a lie, and then say keep posting anyway? That's worse than if you would have not said anything and just let them keep posting while taking no blame yourself or distancing yourself from the previous comment. Just being like, oh, well, you know, there's a problem over there and pivoting away, as Trump has done. It's not like it's going to hurt your image anymore. You already pull low. Is he trying to pull as low as possible?
millions of people who were watching. Why push something that's not true?
Well, first of all, city officials have not said it's not true. They've said they don't have all the evidence.
They said they have no evidence.
We've heard from a number.
Don't have all the evidence. You mean they have no evidence, sir? They don't have all the evidence for Bigfoot.
Constituents on the ground, Caitlin, who both firsthand and secondhand reports saying this stuff is happening. So they very clearly, meaning the people on the ground dealing with this, think that it is happening.
What he means is there was Facebook posts. There was Facebook posts on social media. We have yet to see any evidence otherwise. And let me just say, Facebook posts about foreigners that have come to your country to work, like rumors about foreigners, are kind of a dime a dozen in communities where people are dealing with economic hardship. And that's not to say that none of these stories are true. It's just that, you know, you need somebody to blame. So if you're going to blame people who have come to this country to work or come to this country to be productive, I'm not saying all of them are great, but you got to at least provide evidence.
And I think that it's important for journalists to actually get on the ground and uncover this stuff for themselves when you have a lot of people saying,
He went from Donald Trump is like Hitler to the migrants are eating our pets. My goodness.
Pets are being abducted, or geese at the city pond are being abducted and slaughtered right in front of us.
To be clear, this is a totally separate incident, what he's talking about right now. This is a picture that was spread online from a totally separate incident, unrelated to the story that we're talking about. They're just trying to find some way to make the story real and to turn it into something. And again, it's not like no American in the United States has ever like killed a pet or ate it. I'm sure they have. We have 330 million people in this country. In fact, there was one video that was going around of a woman eating a cat in America. And people were saying, see, here's the evidence. But it was a cat and somebody was doing it in a totally different community. The woman was black, so everybody was like, Haitian. But no, it was just a totally different woman in a totally different community who was not Haitian.
This is crazy stuff. And again, whether those exact rumors turn out to be mostly true, somewhat true, whatever the case may be. Caitlin, I like
287 has donated $10. Dylan must be a migrant cause he got that dog in him.
Thank you for the $10, man. I love his variation of options on this story, either mostly true or somewhat true.
This town has been ravaged by 20,000 migrants coming in. Healthcare costs are up. Housing costs are up. Communicable diseases like HIV and TB have skyrocketed in this small Ohio town. This is what Kamala Harris's border policies have done. And I think it's interesting, Caitlin, that the media didn't care about the carnage wrought by these policies until we turned it.
Until somebody said, they're eating dogs and cats. And that person happened to be the former president of the United States, running to be president of the United States again. Yeah, people are going to notice that. If Kamala Harris came out on stage tomorrow and said the MAGA guys are eating, they're eating the Honduran children, she said some crazy stuff like, yeah, it's gonna be on the news. What did you expect?
Into a meme about cats. And that speaks to the media's failure to care about what's going on in these communities. If
Glitterbell, thanks for the raid.
We have to meme about it to get the media to care. We're going to keep
John
on
Brown
doing it.
Enthusiast has donated $5. Dylan, shrapnel protection is most important. You will need at least level 3 protection. I recommend tactical dreadnought armor with reinforced ceramite and the blessed
Omniscience. Thank you, I appreciate it.
The media should care about what's going on.
Wow, this issue matters. So if we lie about it, it's okay because the issue matters, and they weren't paying attention until we lied about it.
I saw you say that. I think the media does care about it. I just read a very lengthy report in the New York Times on it. PBS NewsHour did a whole story on it. But can I ask you?
Us talking about it and bringing it up. Nobody cared about this
until we started making lies.
Until we raised this issue.
Senator, you talked.
Let's say there was a situation where somebody like, I don't know. Let's put it this way. Jeremy stole $50,000 and my family heirlooms from me after beating my wife half to death. Well, I mean, Jeremy kind of like, he borrowed $50 and he hasn't given it back when he said he would. Well, we're bringing real attention to a real issue. And so whether or not it was mostly true or somewhat true, at the end of the day, we're bringing attention to a real issue. Of course, it's a little different than, politics, real political issues affecting everyday Americans. Point is, though, you shouldn't be lying to bring attention to an issue. Just talk about the issue. You're on the campaign. What better opportunity are you going to have, Vance? If anything, you're spoiling the well, so people are going to hear you try to talk about it, and they're just not going to believe you.
Talked about that your office has gotten a lot of reports. I mean, if someone calls your office and says they saw Bigfoot, that doesn't mean they saw Bigfoot. Why? I mean, you have a sense of responsibility as a running mate, and he certainly does as the candidate to not promote false information, right?
Caitlin, it's a totally fair point, but nobody's calling my office and saying that they saw Bigfoot. What they're calling in
chat, you know what to do.
Saying is we're seeing migrants kidnap our dogs and cats, and city officials aren't doing anything about it. Now, again, I have a responsibility as a United States Senator. I think the media has a responsibility.
When he says he's getting reports, is he getting like, here's my address, here we confirm this is a real person, or are you getting like messages off of like a random email from like Naruto Lever 92? Like what are these reports?
Responsibility as an institution that cares about truth to actually take people seriously when they say their lives have been ruined by this migrant crisis.
It's just the Trump campaign has put forward so many liars when it comes to like the election being stolen and other theories, or the Sharpie gate that was hilarious. It's just, we're not going to take it at face value.
And again, if every single thing that the media says about this story is false, the verifiable facts are that this community has had their lives destroyed by 20,000 migrants coming in and uprooting life.
Again.
To be clear, many of those migrants came in and became productive members of the community. He just said that every single migrant is destroying the lives of the locals. What about the ones that are participating in small businesses? There was this one like local business owner, and he talks about like Haitian workers and the Haitian workers that are working in these factories to produce like machine tools and auto parts in these factories. And he talks about, man, I actually prefer our Haitian guys. You want to know why I prefer the Haitian guys? Because they're not on drugs. They show up to work. I wish I had more. Oh, here it is.
It started slowly. We had an application pool that was a little bit different.
People coming to work here.
People looking for jobs. What he's welding here again are welded axle components.
Jamie McGregor is the CEO of McGregor Metal, which makes welded parts for the auto and farm industries. Right now, about 10% of his workforce is Haitian, over 30 employees.
I wish I had 30 more. Our Haitian associates come to work every day. They don't have a drug problem. They'll stay at their machine. They'll achieve their numbers. They are here to work. And so in general, that's a stark difference from what we're used to in our community.
McGregor acknowledges the sudden arrival of so many new immigrants is a challenge on multiple fronts. But he believes this is partly how the industrial Midwest can regrow.
We want more jobs in our community. And in order to fill those jobs, some jobs need to be people who are not originally from here.
A community of more than 80,000 emptied out to less than 60. That is, until the last few years.
Our churches, we see new people.
In the pews?
Yes, absolutely.
Wes Babian was the pastor at First Baptist Church for almost 20 years.
For years, we've lost people, but you hope somebody else will come and take their place. That hasn't happened here.
Until now.
Because there are folks from Haiti who are coming to church.
Lukens Merzus, who, among his many other jobs, mans the soundboard for Sunday services, is one of those new Haitian members.
Why Springfield?
Of all places. Merzus, with his wife and daughter, were among the first Haitian families to arrive here in 2018.
I got a decent job when I was in Haiti, and then to make a difficult decision to leave, it was...
Man, but that guy, some old woman could have sat in that church instead of him, I guess. You know, it doesn't make any, uproot their lives. You can't just say that about 29. Say stuff like, we need to keep, we want good workers and da-da-da. We need to make sure that the criminals, at least pretend to say that some immigration, some migration, some people coming over and working good factory jobs is good, instead of completely subjecting yourself to a complete just adoption of every single nativist sentiment possible, including those that will continue to degrade small communities. Here's also another question to JD Vance.
Let me ask
that I thought was fantastic.
you about this for just very quickly. I heard Donald Trump before this debate describe Kamala Harris as, I'll just read a few of them, a low IQ individual, somebody who doesn't have the mental capacity to be president, really dumb, unable to put two sentences together. Is that what you saw on the stage tonight?
John, what I saw was a lot of slogans. I think
Ooh, not an answer. Pivot. That's the problem. You don't tell her like that if people are not going to see that. Eventually, people were going to see her. You couldn't just, if you're going to paint her in qualities that you can at least see in her somewhat. Just giggling was not enough. You're laughing Kamala was his first attack, and while he eventually changed it to Comrade Kamala, because now she's a communist, you need to stick with one line, make it stick, and at least have some semblance, some attachment to reality.
The American people are smart, and Kamala Harris talks to them like they're children. She repeats these ridiculous platitudes.
To be clear, there's been a ton of studies on this. Donald Trump speaks at a much lower grade level than basically every other American president ever. So, when he speaks to them like first graders, well, maybe not first graders. I mean, I guess for Trump, it was like sixth graders, maybe seventh graders.
Where if you actually think about what she said, you realize that it doesn't make any sense. She talks a lot about her plans, but then her plans, when you analyze the substance, don't make any sense. And
Donald Trump talked about his what about his concept of a plan? She has a plan. He has a concept of a plan. Why would you bring up the plans? Oh my God. I will say, one last thing I wanted to talk about is that the Russians seem to be pretty mute about the debate, which is surprising to me. I would have expected more noise. But so far, the foreign ministry spokesperson, Maria Sarkovka, told Sputnik that, quote, "It's like two famous boxers fighting on the Titanic. At the end, people ask, who won? Does it matter? This is the Titanic. In 15 minutes, they'll hit the iceberg. America falling, America fleeting, America collapsing, etc., etc., etc." Stephen Miller going ballistic? Okay, I'll check it out.
All these
Day one.
all these criminal migrants that have been flooded in the country are going to be the first to get thrown out of here. I mean, you've seen case after case.
By the way, this guy's the furthest right you can get in the Trump world on immigration. This is the mass deportator man. This is the guy who will do it with a smile.
Tragedies. Those ones are going to get found and deported first. And look at this Venezuelan gang. You have a Venezuelan gang that is taking over entire apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado, and that's responsible by.
Oh, why did he still, dude? The Aurora, Colorado story, the eating cats and dogs and whatever. Why do they keep you can find real stories of migrants doing crimes. They exist. There are migrants that are multiple people. Eventually there's going to be ones that are criminals. There are ones that are criminals. The least regulated the migration is, when you talk about like filtering through paperwork and stuff like that, the more opportunities you could provide for that. There are real stories you could find, but instead it has to be like cartoonishly evil. It has to be like the Venezuelans are engaging in witchcraft and sacrificing the dogs and cats in order to bring back Cthulhu.
Some of the most heinous.
I'm like, this all stems from a video where there's some people at a door with rifles, and they were like banging on the door, hitting on the door, and then people said, "Wow, this building's been taken over by Venezuelan gangs." And then you go talk to the people in the building, they say, "No, that didn't happen." Then you talk to city officials and the police, and they say, "No, that's not happening." And then everybody that's still trying to defend the story is just saying, well, it's being covered up. But I guess it's being covered up so much they have yet to find any substantial evidence of it. Anyway, El Spico, thank you so much for the primer. Has the Chinese government commented on the debate yet? Just wondering if I missed it. No, just the Russians.
That have happened all over the United States. The crime rate in Venezuela is down, I believe, a little bit over 60% over the last several years.
Are you trusting the official figures from the Venezuelan dictatorship?
Let's put it this way.
Ooh, this is the thing I don't get, because Trump keeps saying that the crime figures are down, but the crime figures come from the Maduro government. And right now the entire country is in like economic chaos, and it has been for a very long time. And their argument is that all of the people, all of the evil criminals have left Venezuela to come to America. And so their crime's going down. But the problem is the only source of this data is going to be from the Maduro government. That's the data he's citing. And so you have to trust Nicolas Maduro, who's right now trying to hold on to power as one of his elections is contested. And many world observers say that it was likely fraudulent, the election results, which very much could mean that he could have lost. And this is as his political opponent is scared out of the country, has now fled to Spain, and, you know, the country's in chaos. And so I would think someone like Maduro might be willing to edge the numbers a little bit on, you know, crime data. That's not even to get into the fact that this dude talks about like the deep state. He goes into every single conspiracy theory as of recent to try to promote them and push them, to say the deep state elites are trying to XYZ what it. It's crazy. I'm not kidding. Go listen to some of the crazy stuff Nicolas Maduro has been saying recently in his speeches. He is really trying to opine to the levels of the witches are coming after me. It's very strange.
If you're a dictator of a poor country with a high crime rate, wouldn't you send your criminals to our open border?
That wasn't my question. Are you trusting the figures of the dictatorships? Those are Maduro numbers.
Believing Maduro numbers.
I am believing that it is in the interest.
Wait, he said that to Telemundo? Is he crazy? I just noticed he's speaking to Telemundo, who you couldn't have said it to a worse person.
A criminal dictator to let his criminals out of
it's like going to like oh, is this the Black Music Awards? Let me give my Stephen Miller opinion on R&B. Like, no, this is a terrible idea. This is a terrible, terrible idea.
Of their jails and come to our country.
You have numbers, real numbers, not dictatorship numbers.
The Venezuelan gangs that have, you've seen the CCTV footage. I have a question. Who do you think? Answer me this.
My family is from Venezuela. I know very well the situation of Caracas and many other cities.
Right, and tell me, who were the people with the high-powered rifles in the hallway of that apartment building? Who were they?
They were gangsters from Venezuela.
Right. No American community.
But I was asking to you about figures, numbers,
what I'm saying
facts.
to you is the facts.
See, they're pivoting back to this. The story is that they took over the building, and there's been no evidence that the gang takes over the building. That was the story, is that the police aren't doing anything, and that the gang controls the building, and the cops are afraid to act because they're scared of being like not woke or whatever. But that's not true. If they took over the building, the cops would go in and take the building back if they could. At least you would assume so. If the cops are anyone at all decent. Unless they've, I guess, the right has lost the back to blue. Well, unless they're Capitol Police officers, or I guess not going on these witch hunts.
Are the dead bodies. The facts are...
You said that Caracas has...
Why not just be like, hey, they were harassing locals. There was gang members harassing locals. This needs to stop. Like, see, they could moderate the story to make it believable, but it can't be. It can't be, because this is Trump world, and everything is the worst crisis, or everything is the best ever. It can't be anything in between.
Lowest crime rate than the USA.
The facts are the mutilated bodies. The facts are the people in the morgues that are dead.
I was asking you about Caracas and the numbers in Caracas. Are you trusting the numbers of the dictatorship?
I am trusting the fact that Kamala Harris is letting illegal immigrants into this country who are raping and murdering children.
Oh my God. Why is he acting like such a baby, dude? Why are you yelling? Why you cite a number? He asks if you believe the number because the government you're talking about is the same government Trump wanted to get rid of and was proposing invasions of. So Trump is willing to invade the government and bring it to the ground. Maduro's saying some wild things right now, trying to justify his continuation in power. And you're just going to take those numbers in face value while talking to Telemundo. What did you expect? It's like Trump can only surround himself with the least likable people. It had to be JD Vance. It couldn't be Doug Burgum. It couldn't be anyone that could possibly gain him a vote with moderates.
Being very respectful. Why are you yelling?
Do you know who Jocelyn Ungary is? Do you know who she is?
Do you know how?
Okay, so what we're about to do is here's the name of somebody who got killed by an illegal immigrant. Because they did that and you don't know that name, you are blah, 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 blah. He's talking about the data. He's talking about the numbers. You are passionate about this one thing. You want to shut down the border. You want to get out all those immigrants. I understand that's your position. He wants the data to be right. He's from the country you just cited. What did you expect? If you talk to a Ukrainian and you just cite Russian government numbers and they're like, wait a second, you trust the Russian government on this? What are you expecting? What do you expect the interaction to be? You expect them to just take those numbers at face value? The Venezuelan community in the United States is very, very oppositional to Nicolas Maduro. Not all Venezuelans are, but the ones in America very much are.
People is experiencing violence in Caracas.
Who is she? Who is Laken Riley?
Why are you yelling again?
Why is he debating the press? He's supposed to. This is the spin room. This is the area where they're supposed to like pitch that, hey, Trump won. And now he's currently losing a debate to a journalist. They need back-to-back losses?
Because I'm yelling because children are being raped and murdered.
He just wanted to know about the data. What he's not saying like I don't care about the children.
Asking for figures and you have not replied to me about those figures.
Murdered. Do you know who Kayla Hamilton?
Do you trust the numbers of Nicolas Maduro? I'm asking again.
I trust a ruthless dictator.
Can I just say I respect this journalist a lot for staying on point and not letting like, well, of course I did it. Boom, 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 boom. Just on point, on point, on point, on point. I appreciate the pressure. It's the pressure that's cracking Miller. I'm looking for a little eggshell crack on the top of that cranium. I'm not seeing yet. Maybe one will happen though.
Figures.
Murdered. Do you know who Kayla Hamilton?
Do you trust the numbers of Nicolas Maduro? I'm asking again.
I trust a ruthless dictator will empty his prisons and send their criminals to our country.
So you trust his numbers?
The most dangerous gang in Venezuela is
now. You trust Nicolas Maduro?
I trust that he does not want his criminals to be.
So you believe in his numbers?
I believe he's sending his criminals to our country.
Just say I don't know if the numbers are accurate, but I know this is happening. You could say something like that. You don't even need to be like I'm willing to believe that he will brag about his criminality and exporting. Like, you could even pivot it, and so he's just slamming his head against the brick wall.
And do you think that the crime rate in Venezuela have decreased?
Do you not believe the law enforcement reports of Venezuelan gangs in this country?
I was asking for
But he's talking about crime decreases because he might think, wait, poverty is really high right now. Violence is on the street. We've got to. I don't know. Crime is down. He might be thinking that. And while you're throwing out this idea that Nicolas Maduro is like this man who's knocked down crime, that's the interaction that is happening. But Stephen Miller is desperately trying to bring it back to his point, but not willing to concede in any manner on that statistic, or just saying maybe it's not true to move on. Like, but if he did, he could move on. He could be like, I don't know for sure it's true. I don't know, but I do know. And then he could just say, I do know that this is XYZ.
Venezuelan government figures, not the figures here.
Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not? Yes or no?
What
yes
are
no?
the figures
yes
that you
yes
say
no?
to say
yes
that
no?
in Caracas?
Yeah, who's interviewing who?
The number is lower than in the USA.
Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not?
So you don't have numbers.
Are You know who has numbers? The Department of Homeland Security. You can ask Mayorkas for numbers. You can ask
the Department of Homeland Security has numbers on Venezuelan crime rates.
Director Ray for the numbers.
Sir,
I'm telling you.
You said
think
that in
Nicolas
Venezuela
Maduro,
the crime rate is lower than the USA.
Yes, because
what
the
are your numbers?
Here
That's
now.
my question.
Because the criminals are here now.
Those are Maduro's numbers.
I can tell you again.
The reminder: violent crime is actually down. I mean, I don't know the comparison because I don't really trust Maduro's numbers, so I have no clue if their crime rate is lower or higher. Especially when they're in like, you think. Whatever economic issues we might have in the United States, Venezuela is in a much worse place. So, I mean, I could imagine a lot of people have left the country. So but no, he doesn't have, his argument has to be based in the Venezuelan government number because he doesn't have any other statistics. I don't think the Department of Homeland Security keeps numbers on Venezuelan crime rates. They might keep numbers on the amount of people who are entering the United States and stuff like that. So we might keep numbers on a different part of this discussion, but not on Venezuelan crime data. Well, does the department? How are they even going to gather crime data for every? Did you do that for every country?
Border Patrol agents are encountering thousands
trust
of
Maduro numbers?
I trust the border agents in our country,
and I am not saying that Caracas has a lower crime rate.
Children are dead, and you are wasting my time.
No, I am not.
What is he doing, man? What is he doing?
Wasting your time. I'm asking for facts as a journalist.
Do you have any remorse for the dead children? Do you care?
Remorse? Man, I'm pretty sure No, 1 second. I'm pretty sure I know the difference. Yeah, I mean, like, remorse is like guilty. Why would he feel remorse? Like he killed any children? What?
They're all about the dead children.
Absolutely.
He cares about the children, but he doesn't feel remorse.
That's what I want to leave you with, is that Donald Trump will come to
just asking
office.
for figures.
Here's what's going to happen. Donald Trump is going to be elected president, and the
numbers are very scary, Stephen.
Migrant gangs are going to be sent home. Children's lives will be saved. And you know who will benefit the most? Are the working class Hispanic communities that are besieged by gang violence.
So you don't have figures.
Public schools that are being overtaken by migrant gangs. You have MS-13 that is brutalizing children. You have Kayla Hamilton, who was a 20-year-old autistic girl who was raped and murdered, beaten to death. That will end. That will stop, and our children's lives will be saved. That is the most virtuous thing that can possibly be done.
Violent crime is down. Violent crime continues to decrease. To be completely blunt, I would trust somebody with like a criminal justice background over Donald Trump to try to figure out how to deal with violent crime in the United States.
We are going to save the lives of our children. We will not let Kamala Harris condemn them to a life of misery, suffering, and death. Thank you.
I'm not replying.
Okay. Oh my God, he's still following up. And there he goes. There he goes. My God. The fallout is nuclear. It was a total waste of time. Nobody converted anyone's opinions there. Okay. I was drunk watching the stream and I honestly forgot. Fair enough. I turned it off halfway and played Fall Guys. I think your opinion matters the most. Kamala had a fantastic performance. There was only one point where she misstepped the bloodbath comment. I have concepts of how the debate went.